All right, so we are on part 2 of Training Wheels by TempoWrites. At least we would be if I could find my spot.
Let's start reading from where
did we finish?
I don't remember. Water. We got off the bike.
We got the water bottle. Yep. And here we go. You grip the back of the seat again. Ready? I guess. His nervous cottontail twitched against your wrist. Okay. Pushing him forward to start again, you snickered. And stop wiggling your tail. You're tickling me. Together, you took a few more laps around the parking lot. His fluffy ears flapped in the soft breeze. In spite of freaking out, your best friend was doing pretty well. His big problem was that he just kept freezing up, but he seemed to be improving. Sometimes you could even let go for a second or two. The only time he really had trouble was going up the slight incline of the parking lot. As you jogged with the bike in the same orbit in the parking lot, your mind wandered. Life was pretty great now. It had taken a lot of hard work, and also falling into a secret world of monsters. But you had managed to piece together a really cool family. The dreamers, being warm and fuzzy creatures, were good at making you feel all warm and fuzzy. You wanted to keep that going. Lost in thought, you were surprised by a particularly bad bike wobble. A training wheel zoomed right under your next step. Your legs shot backwards. You tripped forward. With your hands still on the seat of the bike, this meant you gave it a hard shove before you could let go. Asriel rocketed forward. Hey! He looked back, saw you more than a few steps behind, and froze even stiffer than before. Already out of reach, you tried to scramble after him. No luck. The lesson was going downhill fast, and the bike even faster. The hapless goat hurtled toward a row of hedges. Ah! The front wheel of his bike smacked into the curb, and the back bounced up hard. With a bleat of panic, he got launched over the handlebars. You watched in horror as a defenseless goat bro was catapulted into a shrub. Twigs and branches clattered against his helmet. He stuck into it really far, with just his tail and legs poking out.
That's not how hedges work, but okay.
It might be if you come in at the right angle. The bike, still upright, bounced back and rolled lazily away. Those training wheels were doing their job. You sprinted past the bike and jumped the curb. In less than a second, you were by the exposed half of the struggling goat bro. Sneakers blinking like green ambulance lights, he kicked his legs in the air in ineffective panic. A fearful voice rang from somewhere under layers of leaves. Frisk, help! Hold on, I got you. Okay, good. You hadn't killed your brother with a shrub. Ignoring as you got kicked by light-up shoes, you grabbed him around the waist and pulled. Ow! 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 Asriel struggled against your efforts. Quit it! Your dad had done too good of a job growing these bushes. They were really sturdy. You're stuck! I know! A few more kicks did nothing to help him, since the angle he was at meant only the toes of his shoes could jab the ground, leaving little dents in the grass. Get me unstuck! I will! Just stay there! You turned to shout for help, but goat monster reinforcements were already on the way. A worried Toriel bustled across the parking lot. She also tried to pull him out the way he had gone in. He wiggled so much that she set him back down. You thought for a second. Maybe it would be easier to get him out if you cut a big cube of shrub around him. That would be a good start. At least then he could sit down. Hold on! I'll get Dad's new chainsaw! You turned to head back to the greenhouse. What? Toriel stopped you with a gentle paw on your shoulder. My child, we will not need a chainsaw. Oh. You tried to think. You tried to think of a non-chainsaw way of freeing Asriel. Are you gonna burn him loose? You didn't think goat bros were especially flammable, but you didn't want to find out. Looking up from
Of course they are. I mean, they're magic.
Looking up from examining the foliage, your mom shook her head at you. My child, please. The entire bush shook as the nougat of goat inside it struggled. Wow.
Like chocolate?
Yeah, with a chewy goat filling. Well, sorry. Just put it out of your mind then. Oh dear. Okay, it does not say a chewy goat center. It just says a goat nougat.
Tomato sauce, Mommy showed me.
Moldy tomato sauce.
It was tomato paste. It was on the counter in a little cup.
Why does Mommy have moldy tomato paste? Oh, your moldy tomato paste.
Yeah, and it was horrible. It looked so bad. It was like big blue spots all over.
Okay. Well, that's certainly improving the quality of this recording, I'll tell you that.
Well, sorry.
Okay. Look, it says the entire bush shook as the nougat of goat inside struggled. His voice held a mix of fear and frustration. Frisk, don't help anymore! The double dose of dreamer disapproval shorted out your plans. You found yourself stuck in place, not wanting to mess up worse. Toriel poked all around in the branches, but it all played out in front of you like a movie. Finally, Asgore arrived. He took a quick look from above. The branches are just stuck on his helmet. His gaze met your mom's. Lift him out slowly. She nodded and then grabbed the small goat around the middle and started picking him up. You reached out to help, then remembered you weren't supposed to get in the way. You balled up your fists and yanked them back. Asgore stuck his hands into the bushes from the top. You could hear twigs snapping and scratching on plastic. Working as a team, the king and queen extracted their son from the tangle of shrubbery. They set him down on the ground. He could stand, but he looked about as wobbly now as he had been on the bike. Otherwise he looked okay. A bit leafy, but you had seen him leafier. All that plastic armor must have protected him. The goat parents brushed him off, looked him over, and, not finding anything broken or missing, hugged him. Yep. You really wanted to hug him too, to say you were sorry, but you stayed right where you were. Asriel squeezed his eyes shut tight, as if really trying not to cry. Judging by the tear stains on his mom's robe, he wasn't having much luck. The dreamers were distracted trying to comfort him and analyze the bike wreckage. Asgore explained that this was to be expected when trying something new. Toriel reassured the young monster that she could find even more safety gear. You kept your mouth shut, not knowing what to say. For the first time in months, and without really thinking, you reached into your save. Of course, it didn't work. You found only the faintest hint of old TV static, and now it wasn't a world you could reach for, just a thin layer, barely enough to make your fingertips tingle. You didn't try to load the save. It probably wouldn't work anyway, but Asriel had made you promise you would only try in an emergency. This wasn't an emergency. You just felt bad. You told him he'd be okay, but then messed up and let him down. You wanted him to trust you. You wanted them all to trust you. No big deal. You would just have to make it up to him. To everybody. Even if you had to save all of reality again, you would do it. In the dim living room, you stared at the bandage on Asriel's snoot. And not because it had glow-in-the-dark stars on it. He looked like he had mostly recovered from being stuffed into a shrub, but you couldn't be sure. Monster biology was weird. For all you knew, his magic could go flying out the scratch on his nose. Since you couldn't save anymore, you'd have to keep him safe with pure determination. That meant careful observation. Meanwhile, the young monster watched cartoons with a thoughtful expression. Okay, so if humans didn't know much about monsters before you broke the barrier, how come this show has a monster as the hero? You turned to the TV. You turned to the TV. The hero? You mean Miss Frizzle? I think she's a human. The two of you had started watching the Magic School Bus lately. Toriel had discovered the show while making a lesson plan about the science of pies. You liked that it was a show that for sure wouldn't make Asriel cry. He shook his head. Bright colors from the screen painted his fur subtle shades. No, the bus! The Magic School Bus? You pointed at the animated automobile. Is a monster? Well, yeah. I mean, the bus is obviously alive and uses magic and transforms. His fluffy fingers tipped toward the TV. Totally a monster. You considered the idea that magic school buses might be zooming around the underground, discovering all sorts of science facts. Are magic school buses real? He blinked and sat up straighter, then turned to you. I don't think so. His narrow shoulders shrugged. I've never met one. From what you knew about monsters, it was possible. You wondered if you should text your assistant special envoy for monsters. She would probably want them to wear license plates. You hadn't seen any, though, so they could probably wait until your next meeting. You scribbled a quick note in your notebook, along with a sketch in case someone at the United Nations hadn't watched the Magic School Bus. You turned your attention back to your goat bro. Do you need another ice pack? No, I'm okay. Ice clattered together in a bag on the knee that had whacked on the handlebars on the way to the bush. Do you want another glass of water? I still have this one. He pointed to the half-full plastic cup on the coffee table. Is there anything else you need? Not really. He shook his head, ears wobbling. You leaned over the armrest to observe him from a few inches closer. Are you sure you're okay? A giant groan escaped the small monster. Frisk, I'm fine. I'm just being careful. Your hands did the slow double karate chop that sometimes convinced people how serious you were. You have a bad habit of dying. He flung his arms to the sofa cushions. You die just as much. Okay, that's true. Nodding, you keep watching him for signs of disintegration. But I'm just making sure because we're out of extra lives. Ah! He pressed a hand to his goatee face. I'm just trying to watch this show. If you don't want to watch it, maybe you should see if Mom needs help. You had already dusted the snail figurines and taken out the trash, but you didn't want to keep bothering him. You headed into the kitchen. Toriel bustled around at the counter, a royal purple apron tied above her fluffy white tail. She hummed a song you didn't know. She knew lots of those. Trying not to get in the way, you walked up to her. Hey, Mom. Greetings, sweetie pie. Seeing you, she set down a bowl of yellow, fuzzy underground mushrooms, which looked like trumpets and only honked occasionally.
Wait, what?
Wait, there's something different about these. Yes, there's a subtle clue that they might not be normal surface mushrooms.
Well, I mean, I can kind of picture yellow trumpet-shaped fuzzy mushrooms. Like, I could picture that being nothing but... Are they monsters?
Only occasionally.
I mean, I guess the echo flowers talk. So.
A large, fluffy paw smoothed... No, I don't think echo flowers are monsters.
Is it canon that Toriel or somebody said I've never seen a flower monster? Is that just in every fanfiction ever?
Couldn't tell you.
Because if echo flowers are monsters because they talk...
flower monster, that's probably like Asgore genocide. Because Flowey shows up.
Yeah,
Asgore genocide?
What? Genocide in our nice little recording?
Edit that out! Emily said it, not me!
Yes.
I can ask the question.
Be gone with that.
I didn't do anything.
A large, fluffy paw smoothed your hair. Her fond smile shone down at you. You squirmed. Sometimes all this goat affection happened so suddenly that you weren't sure what to do with it. Do you need help? A hand rose to her heart. What a thoughtful child I have. Let us see. Let's just take a little break here, shall we?
Commercial time.
It's a terrible commercial.
Did you ever fall into a hedge? Buy this new hedge repair kit. Comes with 22,000 leaves, 6 replacement branches, and a tube of super glue. Super glue not waterproof, but you can buy waterproofing treatment for only $10.99 at your local hardware store. Guaranteed to fix any old caused by fluffy goods. Fluffy cow.
Fluffy goat
Guaranteed.
Fluffy goat not included.
6 branches and 22,000 leaves?
I mean, you count the leaves.
Fluffy goat.
How many raindrops are
Fluffy goat.
Yeah, but
commercial. This is not sponsored by Mettaton, but he would love for you to buy his products and his toothpaste, which we mentioned in our last commercial. Thank you. Have a nice day from your fellow Asriel hedge repair shop.
Okay. That was useful and well thought out.
We need more commercials.
Nope, I think we're ready to get back to it.
More commercials, and we only get commercial breaks like every. We need more commercials.
Depends on how scratchy my throat is.
I could sell some of Toriel's bike safety gear to help protect your Asriels that went into hedges.
Fluffy.
I could sue a lawsuit against chocolate companies that are doing bad things with goats. What?
Chocolate companies that are doing bad things with goats.
They're chocolate.
I don't think they do.
Sponsored by you! The hedges!
Sponsored by me. It kind of is, frankly. Okay.
There we go.
Do you need help? Do you need help? Do you need help? A hand rose to her heart. What a thoughtful child I have. Let us see. She glanced from the chicken sizzling in a pan to the knife sitting by the veggies on the cutting board. The way her lips pressed together made it clear helping with either of those would be far too deadly for a kid. Perhaps you could shell some peas? Peas were well known for not being very lethal. Okay. The peas in question were in a cardboard box in the middle of the counter, which was just far enough to be out of kid reach. You had to climb on a chair a bit, but you managed to grab it. Toriel returned to cutting up carrots and celery. Your father mentioned how he is now growing something called a snap pea. I am not sure I want him to be growing something that snaps so near the school. Getting a bowl from the cupboard, you set it on the table with the peas and got a plastic grocery bag to put the shells in.
For being so smart, Toriel would be very oblivious.
Well, I think, yes, horticulture is not her thing.
And the vice versa for Asgore, who knows like everything about plants but might be clueless about other things.
He seems to be terrible at cooking. You had recently taught the goat family about how plastic grocery bags were an important resource on the Earth's surface. One pod at a time, you plunked the peas into the bowl. Snap peas don't actually snap at you, they're just crunchy. Ah, that does sound safer. Chuckling, she shook her head. You children these days and your fancy new peas. One of the peas shot out of the pod and sailed over to the front door. You went on a side quest to track it down. Once you found the rogue pea, though, you had no idea what to do with it, since it had been on the floor. You thought about throwing it away, but you wouldn't throw out an apple if it fell on the floor. Figuring you had already committed, you walked to the sink and washed it before putting it in the bowl with the rest. Well, you could do that. Yeah. Her claw... Well, I suppose. Her claws poked a pastry circle down into each cup of the muffin tin. This pan for making a dozen little pies is so darling. You humans invent such marvelous things. You decided not to tell her it was technically for cupcakes. It did make good micro pies. Maybe muffin Maybe muffin tins had been micro pie tins all this time, and it took monsters to unlock the secret. You're making chicken pot pie? After the day we've all had, I thought something old-fashioned would suit us.
When she was sizzling it on the stove, though.
The
Did
chicken.
she, fry chicken and then put it in the bowl?
She's just cooking it first. Or whatever.
She held her breath for a moment, then tiny balls of fire appeared above her hand. The fireballs twirled down to the pan and zipped around at incredible speed. Chicken and onions sizzled. I find a bit of fire magic helps ensure the chicken is fully cooked. You thought it was a little weird to cook chicken just so you could put it in the oven and cook it again, but you couldn't argue with the results. You shelled more peas instead. She tapped a wooden spoon on the rim of the pan. The tiny fireballs vanished with a fizzle. With each bob of the pan, the cooked contents dumped neatly into the crusts. You do not think they have too much crust compared to filling? No, they're good. From your previous encounters with it, the crust was mostly butter, so it basically disintegrated into deliciousness. Perhaps I could use them to teach the students about ratios. Her face got a very mathematical look as she poured chicken broth into the still hot pan. It hissed and made the kitchen smell even tastier. You shelled more peas. Like the stray pea from many pods ago, a thought flew out into the room. I feel bad that Asriel crashed. Her quick whisking in the pan slowed. Cinnamon-red eyes flicked to you over a gentle muzzle. Her voice switched from teacher mode to mom mode. Accidents happen, my child. You do not need to feel badly. You nodded. I still do, though. That is often the nature of feelings. Rolling out the last of the crust, she used a cookie cutter to punch out little pie lids. They formed a neat stack of flour frisbees. Caring is not always easy, but I have found it is worthwhile. Feeling glum, you studied the threads that made up the tablecloth. I told him he'd be fine, and he will be. She patted over. She squeezed your shoulders and kissed the top of your head. Then she took the bowl of shelled peas. As will you. It's probably good that she stopped you, or you would have just shelled the entire box of peas. You watched her assemble.
Are those the peas they picked?
Yeah.
In the box?
Yeah.
When did I just realize that?
Wow, it's a callback. You watched her assemble the rest of the chicken pot pies. Inside, you didn't feel quite put back together. I am proud that you care so much about everyone, and about my son in particular. She loaded the last of the veggies into the tiny pies. Perhaps you will feel better after some dinner. You nodded, though you weren't really sure. Maybe you, like the pies, just needed to be filled with gravy. Anything else you need me to do? I believe I have matters well in hand. One of the weird mushrooms blew a bubbly note as she covered it in sauce. Could you check on your brother?
I can't say that when you pour something. It's just like... What?
Seems vaguely unnerving, frankly.
As long as they're not alive.
As long as it's not a mournful.
No, it's just like a reaction.
Okay, well.
I mean, like a built-in, push it and it squeaks type of thing. Not,
Okay. All right. Yes. I'm sure it's fine.
You fight them and they're just like, whoa!
Now who's coming up with all the terrible ideas?
Not sad, just like that's the natural.
They're happy to be eaten.
No, if you bite it, if you squish it, it squeaks. Not because it's alive.
I'm
It's
not
just
sure I like this idea.
No, it's like a bike horn.
It's like
It's a built-in thing where it makes a noise because of the air in it. It's not like it's alive.
Chicken pot pies that honk at you as you eat them. I think that'd be a little. I don't know. Maybe you get used to it.
I'm just picturing Toriel cooking the mushrooms and then hesitating to cook them every time after because every time she cooks them, it's so noisy.
You wouldn't be able to sneak one for a snack because it would honk you when you ate it.
It said occasionally honk.
In their mouth, and then people start grabbing like goes with it. And, oh my goodness.
Asriel, please don't honk while you're eating your pies. Eat them quietly, please. Eat with your mouth closed or the honking will be louder.
It talks by itself.
Well, just try to eat slowly and make the honking a little slower.
Devour his. I don't know.
Could you check on your brother? Being bounced between two goat monsters wasn't exactly what you had hoped for, but then you weren't sure what you were hoping for exactly. You walked back into the living room as the ending music to the cartoon played. Asriel was fiddling with his ice pack, trying to get it to balance on his knee. This was complicated by monsters not being able to fold completely in half. You bent down and did it for him. Do you need anything? Watching you adjust the ice pack with a tired look, he lay back on the couch. I don't think so. I do have a surface world question, though. Sure. Why is my voice so weird?
Yes.
I said
He's actually really tired. Buy some magic pills. When you feed him, he'll listen about sparkles. Oh, and protect me dogs.
What?
More energized and happy and bouncy and 200% more Asriel than normal. You can also feed this.
That's a lot of
It will
Asriel.
make him like Asriel too. He might even grow ears. Like
Ow.
an extra set of ears.
That sounds like a lawsuit waiting to
You
happen.
know what? But his earring is twice as good. If you like Asriel ears, you can also buy the ears supplement, which just grows a pair of ears on anyone. You need Asriel already has ears.
I think all the sponsors are going to get canceled and probably sued.
Any sponsors are canceled.
You're gonna get like you can have like 2 pages of disclaimers about that.
All right.
Disclaimer, this product is not
I do have a surface world question, though. Sure. You climbed onto the couch. Answering monster questions usually made you feel better. As an ambassador, you had learned that even small misunderstandings could lead to pretty big mix-ups. Monsters and humans had a lot to misunderstand. One time you had asked for hot cocoa instead of hot chocolate, and Toriel had cooked some shredded-up coconut milk to flavor it. That had actually turned out pretty good. But for every hot cocoa, you encountered about 10 snail tarts. So, if humans have pajamas, why don't they just wear them all the time? You shrugged. Sometimes you need special clothes, like for a fancy party. Pretty sure I've seen pajamas that look like a dress. And somebody could make tuxedo ones. Papyrus and Sans have those tuxedo t-shirts. You can't explore the bottom of the ocean in pajamas, though. He lifted both fluffy hands. Maybe if they were scuba pajamas? Nice. You picked up your notebook to sketch that important new technology. He hit play on the TV remote. Now that monsters could check out movies from the library instead of waiting for VHS tapes to fall into the underground from the dump, you'd been trying to get them interested in some new anime. Asriel had liked My Neighbor Totoro, so now you stepped it up to The Cat Returns.
Those are real.
They are.
How do you know?
Why would you know?
You figured it would be a long time before he could watch Spirited Away without getting scared.
Ew, it is scary.
Without getting scared.
Oh.
Are you sneaking out to watch anime at night? You figure
I actually know because Emma told me that was scary.
it's not really that
I'm
scary.
gonna watch whatever it is.
Spirited Away is cool.
It is? Can we get it?
Maybe.
Oh, why would we? What?
I think they have it at the library.
I know, because they got it.
Yeah.
I think Coleman showed me a bunch.
Meanwhile, you figured it would be a long time before he could watch Spirited Away without getting scared, but you remained determined. Still doodling, you had another idea. I could put pegs on my bike, and you could ride on those. Asriel was pretty light, You could totally pedal with him hanging on the back of the bike. Pegs? They stick out from the sides and you ride on them. So I'd be even less attached than on a regular bike? His white velvet nose wiggled with concern. Okay, how about this? Grabbing your notebook, you sketched out a quick design for encasing an entire goat bro in bubble wrap. You showed it to the goat to be encased. He studied the diagram. Wouldn't I still fall off? If you look here, you'd actually be duct taped to the bike. You poked the pencil at that part of the plan. It's like a seatbelt, but sticky.
Ow.
He settled. Well, it would go around the bubble wrap, probably. Not his fur. That would be painful. His paw settled on the notebook, soft as a cotton ball, and slowly pushed it down. Frisk, this is starting to sound like one of Mom's ideas. A few minutes passed. Words built up inside you until they came flying out. We don't have to ride bikes. I could teach you to rollerblade. His gaze flicked to you for a second, then back to the TV. Maybe. Or skateboard. I don't know how, but we could learn together. I don't know. Can we figure it out later? You drew another sketch, this time of Asriel inside a large sphere. So you know how a hamster ball works? If we get one that's big enough, we could put you inside it.
Asriel doll. That's my next commercial.
Frisk, can we just watch the movie? In spite of having several other suggestions for goat bro transportation, you shut your mouth and nodded. The two of you kept watching. The movie got to the part where the main character turned into a cat. You sat up. You could probably get the hang of having whiskers. From the corner of your eye, you noticed that a small goat monster was watching you instead of the movie. You blinked. What? His green eyes narrowed. You have that look like you're planning something. What look? You touched your face, trying to feel if anything was different. People keep telling me my face always looks the same. Well, they're not your bro. You winced. You were new to having a brother, but you were pretty sure you weren't supposed to launch him into hedges. Asriel paused the anime. His eyes stayed locked on you, not even looking away as he set down the remote, or when it fell on the floor. He could be pretty determined, too. What are you thinking so hard about? You slumped back against the sofa. No point in lying to him. I was just wondering if a human can get turned into a monster. Oh. He tilted his head. His ears dangled. I'm pretty sure that's impossible. Why would you want to be a monster anyway? Wiggling his fingers, he used magic to float the remote off the floor. Humans can just buy clothes and wear them. Mom has to sew a tail hole in all of my pants. Remember the time Monster Kid came to school wearing a pillowcase, and we had to tell him it wasn't just an armless shirt? You nodded. That had been one of those important monster prince duties, and monsters did have their own kinds of problems, you supposed. Wait, he crossed his arms. Do you want to be a monster? I don't know, I guess. How come? I just thought it might make it easier for you guys. Easier? Yeah, so I'd fit in. Your hand waved in the direction of the school. It's like Dad's tree. You waited for him to realize the same big dramatic thing as you. When he didn't, you clarified more slowly. The absolute god of hyperfruit tree? I remember the tree. He reached out to touch your arm, then started to drop his ice pack and had to scramble to catch it. I'm trying to figure out how this is like the tree. What if I'm too different to attach to you guys? You hugged a throw pillow. What if I'm the banana branch? The small goat blinked. I don't think you're A banana branch? Well, you'd said something stupid and weird. Awkwardness built up until it pushed you off the couch. The dreamers were super nice, and you kept causing them trouble. First, you fired their adorable goat child into a bush, and now you were talking like you were the one everybody should feel sorry for. Look, never mind. I don't know what I'm talking about. Just take it easy out here and let me know if you need anything. I'll be in our room. Asriel tried a couple of times to say something, but trailed off both times. You headed back to your bedroom and flopped face down onto the bed. Several minutes of laying later, Toriel padded down the hallway and paused at the door. Her claws tapped the doorframe in a quiet knock. "Frisk, may I come in?" Looking up from where you had flopped face down on the bed, you shrugged. "Sure." "Asriel said that you were upset. Something about a banana?" Unsure what to say, you buried your face in a pillow. She strode across the room and sat next to you on the bed. Her warm hand brushed over your hair. "Do you think you could tell me what is the matter?" If another human had touched you like that, it would have felt weird, but boss monsters looked and felt enough like giant plush toys to make it a comfortable kind of weird. "I don't know. It's silly, I guess." "We are all silly sometimes." Her patient paw rested on your shoulder, as if you could take all the time in the world to answer. You sat up, though you still felt wobbly like jelly. "I really like living with you and Asriel. I don't want to mess up." "Have you felt that you have messed up?" The goat tried her best to copy how you said it. "Sometimes, yeah." You shrugged. "Like when I got distracted and let Asriel crash his bike." "I see." A distant sadness entered her voice. "We all make mistakes, child." Your mouth flattened into a stubborn line. You didn't mind making mistakes so long as you could unmake them. You sure missed having a save. "I've been trying to make it easier to have me here." "I have noticed you trying very hard to help around the house." Her cinnamon-hued eyes flicked to the living room as her tone lowered. "Though I am not sure how much more help Asriel can handle." You tried to laugh, but it came out as a weak chuckle. The effort made you slump against her. It still felt strange, being allowed to just melt into goo against someone. With a gentle squeeze, she pulled you into a hug. She felt warm and soft and extremely fluffy. Faced with such extreme fluffiness, you couldn't help feeling a little better. Before you realized, you were hugging her too. Toriel's hugs had a sort of gravitational pull like that. A contented sigh breezed from her, sounding funny with your ear pressed against her chest. "My child, do you remember the day that we met?" You nodded. The smooth fabric of her robe bunched up under your chin. Her hand patted on your back, really carefully, like you were breakable. "And how I asked you to stay with me, even then?" "But I refused." A twinge of guilt twanged in your chest. You still felt kind of bad about leaving, even though it hurt her feelings. It had worked out, but still. "Yes, you are a most tenacious child." Toriel placed a warm paw on your shoulder. "Have you thought about why you didn't stay then?" "A little." Okay, more than a little. A lot. You just hadn't made a lot of progress. "I talked with the therapist about it." Her silky soft thumb brushed the hair from your eyes as she looked down into them. "You can tell me. I promise that I shan't be offended." You shrugged. It was just too weird. Why would somebody want me who just met me? A chuckle hummed in her throat, like a two-note lullaby. I have never been able to ignore someone who needed help. It is a feeling I'm sure you understand. Yeah, you were a sucker for people who were in trouble. It was very good of you to save the world, Frisk. But you do not have to save the world to deserve a place in it. That would be very unfair. The world only needs so much saving, and usually any one person isn't in a position to save it. We have to work together, just like we work together in our home. You nodded. It made sense, in that sort of interesting science fact way, like when you learned that a blue whale weighed as much as 100 cars. But your brain couldn't really picture something that big. Your brain had the same sort of trouble with an idea like this that was so different. Her chin rested on top of your head. May I tell you something I've learned about families? Okay. You couldn't remember someone ever specifically explaining them, but Toriel was a teacher and a mom, so she was twice as likely to explain things as anybody else. A family is not a puzzle. Affection softened her words, even as they rang with surety. You do not need to solve problems to belong. You buried your face in her robes. The subtle scent of baked goods greeted you. Having her talk about this family stuff tugged the tangle of feelings in your chest in about 100 directions. We help each other, but you are not in our family so you can work. Her embrace felt steady but gentle, a perfect match for her tone. You are here so that we can love you, and so you can love us. Normally, breathing was something that you could be trusted to figure out, but right now, whenever you tried, you made a sort of choking hiccup sound into your mom's robe. All this love talk was getting to you. Her breath stirred your hair. So, my dear Frisk, please remember that when you feel you are messing up. Her hand rubbed between your shoulders as she totally pretended not to notice all the crying you were doing. And if you need to hear it again, I will tell you as often as you need. Asgore will also. A moment passed by, leaving a hint of mischief in her voice. And Asriel can repeat all of this word for word, I am certain, because he has been hiding by the door. A quick bleat of surprise arose from just outside the bedroom. From the corner of your eye, you saw a fuzzy white shape squirm. Toriel sat up a bit and turned her head to the door with a soft sigh. Still holding you, she kept her tone mild, even if it was a bit amused. My child, the prince of all monster kind does not need to listen from a hallway. A few quick steps brought a sheepish goat bro into the room, tail tucked down. Sorry. It's okay. Your voice came out froggy and groggy, so you cleared your throat. A cool wetness on your cheek reminded you how much you had been crying. You wiped your eyes with your sleeve. You just heard us saying a bunch of corny stuff, that's all. That's not so bad, Frisk. His paw settled on your shoulder. Lots of things are way worse than corn. You looked up at him. Sometimes even you had trouble telling a monster joke from monster confusion. This was one of those times. Before you could wipe your eyes again for a good look at his expression, Asriel got pulled into Toriel's hug gravity like a small, fluffy moon. He climbed on the edge of the bed beside you and latched onto you with both arms. That velvet nose pressed to the back of your neck with a happy squeak. Classic goat bro. He could never pass up an excuse for snuggles. He had a lot of cuddle time he had missed, you supposed, being dead and a plant. So, really, he was just making up for that. Sorry for being a pain. You tried to find a way to wiggle that let you turn toward him without leaving the hug or falling on the floor. I was just trying to make up for crashing you into a bush. Frisk, that's basically the least bad way that we've messed up. A little snicker twitched his nose. We didn't even make any doom holes this time. A chuckle left your throat, sounding weird because of all the other feelings piled on top of you. Toriel and Asriel didn't seem to mind. Wrapped in dreamer hugs from either side, you felt warm and safe and wanted. Those feelings might be new, but they were getting more comfortable, sort of like how you'd been building up your smiling muscles in the last few months. They were getting a workout right now, even. Knowing you were home filled you with determination. A couple of weeks later, Asriel had learned to ride a bike. Mostly. He still wobbled, but at least he wobbled now in the direction he wanted to go. For your first cool bicycle adventure, you and Asriel biked up to Mount Ebott. Toriel called it a bug hunting trip, but Asriel always felt too bad for the bugs you captured, so it was really just a wandering around trip. The landfill had been on the opposite side of Mount Ebott. This had always seemed like a good idea for stink reasons. After half an hour of hiking up the slope, Asriel stopped to appreciate the view. Sunlight sprinkled through the gaps in the trees, dancing in his white fur. The surface world is so amazing. You looked out over the landfill. If you think this is cool, just wait until we get to a view that isn't egg cartons and burger wrappers and other junk. He shrugged. Even old junk can be pretty with all this sunlight. You looked out over the dump and tried to appreciate it. Talking to monsters made you see the world differently, which was nice. You liked being their ambassador, because then you could help the world get weird monster ideas, too. What did the underground do with its trash? We tried to reuse a lot of it, but most of it would eventually fall into the abyss. And into the underground. His fuzzy white eyebrows rose. I don't think that's a real thing. You stroked your chin. I didn't think monsters were under my town, either. His green eyes narrowed at you. Frisk, if you're thinking of falling in that hole, you should tell me so that I can tie a rope to you. You smiled. Being one of the dreamers gave you enough reasons to smile that your face could hardly keep up. Every day, a little more of their affection stuck with you, building you up inside from the heart outward. Knowing that you were only ever a phone call away from your fluffy family filled you with determination. Further down the mountain, Ice Wolf had stopped loading big cubes of recycling into a truck and was sniffing at someone's dog on a leash. You snickered. Asriel looked up from smoothing the fur of his ears, where it had been mussed by the bike helmet. He turned to you. What? You pointed at the recycling center. The monster dogs seem like they're figuring out life on the surface. His snowy white eyebrows rose. Why do humans have pets anyway? To pet them. It's in the name. He turned to you, floppy ears swinging. That's it? Yeah, humans like to pet fluffy creatures. It keeps us from going crazy. Wait a minute. He propped small fists on his hips. Is that why you like me and Mom and Dad? You shrugged. It's more like a bonus. Reaching up, he stroked your shaggy brown hair. You let the goat monster pet you. Fair was fair, after all. The blunt points of his fangs showed in the smile. I think it works the other direction, too. You rolled your eyes and sat down on a patch of soft grass. He sat down beside you. His chest rose, then fell with a sigh that was pretty big compared to the sire. I am really happy not to be Flowey anymore. You rested your arms on your knees and smirked at him. Because you'd rather have Mom's pies than Dad's fertilizer? He stuck out his tongue past his blunt fangs like he had just tasted mulch. Yuck! No! Well, yes, but no, I mean because I can feel stuff. Feelings. Feelings are pretty cool most of the time. Thoughts bubbled around you inside like a soda until you had to let off the pressure. You know what stinks, though? Asriel blinked and swiveled his head left and right, nose wiggling as he checked for unusual smells. No? What? That I feel bad about mistakes I didn't even make in this reality. Oh, he nodded, pulling his knees to his chest. Yeah. His arms wrapped around his legs and curled into a small monster ball. I feel bad about the stuff I said and did as Flowey. Some of it was even in this timeline. You thought about it for a moment, then sat beside him. But it wasn't like an entire Asriel did that stuff. His fluffy white eyebrows went up as if that was a really weird thing to say. What does that mean? A shrug rolled your shoulders. Well, you didn't have a soul. Yeah, I remember that part. His hands rose, uncertain, to his chest. It's in there. You poked him in the ribs. I smooshed it back into you myself. He giggled and swatted your hand away. Hey, come on! You know I'm ticklish! You lifted your hands. I'm just showing you that it worked since you can feel stuff now. I believe you. He rolled his eyes. What was your point? You sat and thought for a few seconds. A while ago, you had realized that goat monsters wouldn't interrupt you when you did that, which was nice. It gave you time to properly cram thoughts and feelings into words, like packing a suitcase without the clothes exploding out. Remember how in science class Alphys said that dreaming stops you from making some of your brain chemicals? You mean the day we were supposed to be talking about the water cycle? Yeah, I remember. His lips pouted a little. You had both failed the quiz that day and had to retake it.
What?
And how?
Failed the water cycle quiz if you hadn't talked about it.
Maybe. I'm not sure.
Victoria.
Who knows? And how that's why you do stuff in a dream that you would never do in real life?
That's true. It like suppresses some chemicals, but it logic or something. But it has like you're like 5 times less common sense in dreams than you do.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And you have chemicals that are like adrenaline and stuff, but you don't have common sense and stuff like that.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
And you get paralyzed.
You get adrenaline though? I do.
Or like in your dream, like what? I don't know.
Yeah.
You get paralyzed so you don't do what
Because you don't act out your dream, yep. Unless you sleepwalk. But it's not like it was a dream, Frisk. I know, you nodded. But you weren't like an entire you. I guess. A small sigh puffed from his muzzle, and then he gave you a tired smile. I just don't want to ever be like that again. Then just keep being nice to people, and leave your soul where it's at. You poked his ribs again. I volunteer to tickle you every day to make sure. What? No! He bleated a laugh, squirming. You could have kept tickling him, but you showed him mercy. Once he recovered, your best friend wrapped you up in a hug, his soft, round muzzle pressed to your shirt collar, warm breath traced along it. Thanks, Frisk. I feel a little better. Sure thing. You gave the fluffy monster a squeeze. He was a good size for hugging, since you could get your arms all the way around him, but he wasn't so small that you worried about accidentally hurting him. And he didn't have any sharp spines or hazards to watch out for. After the hug ended, he brushed his floppy ears back onto his shoulders and looked shyly at you. Does talking about this stuff make you feel better too? You blinked, surprised to be talking about yourself. I think so. Yeah. Again, you took a second to sort out how you felt, thankful that you didn't have to dodge magic bullets at the same time. Having someone else understand all this timeline stuff makes me feel less nuts. Okay, good. He curled his pinky finger around yours. It felt fuzzy and warm. I promised to take care of you, remember? Of course, the kid who used to be a plant would find sappy new ways to hold hands. Still, you curled your pinky onto his. A comfy feeling glowed in your chest. Yeah, I remember. That is the end. There's a note here.
Oh.
The note says, after seeing how much Coram Deo's kids enjoyed his reading of my previous 2 stories in the series, I knew I had to write another one. You can check the audio version of this series out here.
Oh, there's no link yet.
No, there is.
Oh, there is.
Oh, I guess it's the other series. https://www.youtube.com/watch?V=LIRD_V_B90 &list equals P L M K38S AD E L 19 NV G O ML R BY E D Q S1 JEGU index equals 1.
Anyone listening to that already found the series?
Yes. I can see why reading out HTML code for an audiobook is not great.
Yeah, there might not be like audiobooks of like the code or things like that. Anyway, we need more fan art and we need to tag the crafty grafty prune tree.
Yep.
Or
And
just
we need
have
more
like
stories.
a whole story called that.
I mean, there will only be
Also,
one story that has that tag.
Is that a problem?
It'll be
Yeah.
How many stories have Doomhole as a tag?
Probably more than one. I'll bet you could find. I mean,
Click on it.
could be like a black hole science fiction story.
Click on ooh.
There isn't a Doomhole tag.
No, go
Doesn't
back
exist.
in the series or whatever and find the Doomhole tag.
It's not. There is no tag.
Yes, there is.
No tag. No Doomhole tag appears in any story.
Yes, there is.
They
What?
got added.
Did
We
it?
asked for a tag and he made one.
Did he?
Yes.
But not there.
Well, all right. Hang on.
You
I'll check. I seem to have forgotten
Honestly, half
this.
the point of making tags is making those long extra ones that are
Doomhole.
fun.
All right. Let's see. I'm afraid there's only one story that has Doomhole as a tag.
See, so we can have crafty fruits and it'll be fine.
Or
Can we have bubble wrap
Or
Asriel as a
one of you could write a story that includes Doomhole as a tag. Ooh, the Doomhole returns. Maybe deep in the underground, long after everybody had left,
That's a bad
the
story.
Doomhole sparks back into life.
That's a bad story. Then it destroys everything and nobody notices.
Well, so you'd have to write a story where that doesn't happen.
Wait, if
Maybe it's a good Doomhole.
Then how did Asriel?
Maybe it's a hope hole.
Asriel is just like, maybe it's a good Doomhole.
Yeah, well, he was the one who was terrified of it.
Yeah,
Rightly so. Frisk was a little bit casual about it. Lackadaisical. Anyway,
If it was a hope hole, then we wouldn't have to tag Doomhole.
I still need to draw Velocipede. I forgot to. And I actually wasn't in the car where the drawing notebook is, so I couldn't. I will draw Velocipede.
okay.
It's gonna be like a dinosaur head with maybe 6 or 7 pairs of legs and Asriel riding on the top of it.
Robot.
Is he going to be terrified? Where will Frisk be?
It's a robot.
Riding a bicycle?
Maybe. It might just have Asriel on it. I can't draw faces, so
You'll have to do it from the side or the
Just draw
back.
a bunch of A's.
whenever
above
I
it.
try drawing anything, what?
Just draw A's above it.
Ah! Getting bigger.
You can draw a little worried
No, I'm just-
marks above his head.
I might just title it Velocipede and then draw a bike below it.
Gotcha.
But
So that is the end of this series so far.
He liked this
So far.
recording, so he has to make a new one.
He may not like this recording.
But the crusty
He may be regretting this.
My commercial forward. I can do the Asriel ball. Do you need to transport Asriel where you want him getting exercise? And he doesn't have a velocipede to ride on. Buy an Asriel hamster ball. Available for $199 at your local supermarket.
$199 what?
Dollars, gold, I don't know. Insert unit of currency here.
Cents? $199.99. Oh god.
Yeah, so
Daddy seems very interested.
if you like their commercials and you like their story, the stories that you
Wow. You've just taken over partial credit for this story. Wow.
You said the recording, so if you like the recording,
Buy weird yellow fuzzy trumpet mushrooms that may or may not hold when you eat them. Available at your local supermarket. $5 a pound.
I really want a little one-shot fan fiction of them just like, or even like a comic, and there's just like a bowl of trumpet mushrooms. They'll get someone Asriel like stabs one, goes, and then like everybody
Stabbing? Why are your stories and things so horrible?
Look, I know.
Oh dear.
He's eating food with a fork. That's not terrible or murderous. He stabs it with a fork.
Ah. Okay.
And it's like, and then like the people who are eating them, and it's just like,
I'm not sure I shouldn't feel bad for the mushrooms, frankly.
Tutorial, like, I'm never making this again. And then everybody's laughing, and then Asriel just picks up one. He's like, and squeezes it. Oh goodness. I'd be like, what is this? And then occasionally the mushroom bowl just like, and it's like soft honks occasionally.
I feel like
Well, you could make a work inspired by this one.
Yeah, so either have
And
that
call it,
fanfiction or a comic, because I could definitely see a comic of them just like trying to eat honking mushrooms.
You could call it the Goat Bro inspired story,
Drawings.
The Honkening.
I could just.
This is the Flufferning.
It is?
The series is Goat Bro Redux, The Flufferning. Asriel returns. Yeah.
Maybe I could.
What are you sorry about the Temiel?
No, not Temiel. We don't need
But you couldn't have the
Temiel.
Temiel because then Toriel would cease to exist.
That wasn't bad.
And you have a
Remember, she was calling Frisk on her phone, and then when the Temiel appeared, suddenly the phone went dead.
really?
Yeah. Frisk was saying, hello, hello. And then the Temiel was there, and then after the Temiel disappeared, Toriel was back on the phone.
No Temiel.
Yeah.
Plus, there would probably be a doom hole.
Plus, Flowey said, let's never do this again.
Flowey horrified?
Yes, Flowey was. What are you doing, Frisk? Load your save.
Does he take ideas? He can make ideas.
Yes, he does take ideas. I don't know if he uses them, but I mean, literally, if he's listening, I suppose he is taking ideas.
Wow.
That's a fine idea. I wonder if you have any more specifics.
Make a story about the fucking
But you have to have a.
tutorial to get back together.
Oh,
That's like your suggestion.
well, I mean, they're doing better this chapter than this story than they did last
Yeah, so
one.
the next one they can do better
They
because they're
get back
getting back
together and
together.
Asriel and Frisk like surprise them for their wedding with 8-year-old ideas on how to do things. Like, ooh, we could get them to
Frisk is 9.
9-year-old ideas.
Oh, I thought you meant ideas that
Yeah.
had been sitting around for 8 years and they dusted them off.
No, like they're having a wedding and they're like, oh, we need to do something special. And so they plan out all these like things, and they're like from the mind of a 9-year-old, and it's like, ooh.
So instead of throwing like a surprise party, they throw them a surprise wedding.
Not a surprise wedding, and they just help them with their wedding.
Oh.
They could throw a surprise wedding.
Invite all their friends and a pastor or something and rent a
Tuxedo.
a conference. Rent a tuxedo for Asgore and have it for him. And get a church, and
Get Toriel to randomly wear a really nice dress.
yeah, and then once they once they arrive, it'll be too late to back out of it, and they wouldn't want to embarrass everybody, so they'll have to get married.
Sounds like a plan. Whoa. What? Just the whole idea.
Yep.
Ooh. No, probably. I was thinking, I was saying maybe he could have Kara in a story, but I kind of doubt he's going to do that.
No, this is the one where
Frisk is like
Frisk is imagined as a reincarnation of Kara in this story.
Ooh, we could get all the other kids.
There's a hint of that way at the very beginning of in the first story, where when Asriel is saved, it says something like, "You feel like a weight that's been on you for a very long time is finally released," or something.
The Kara narrator thing then?
I don't know. It's not
Flowey?
dug into deeply. So, but yeah, Frisk is Kara. All right then. Well, we shall leave it at that then. I hope you enjoyed this story.
I did. I hope you buy my products. that I sponsored during the commercial break. Those don't have anything to do with the story. The story is still good.
Poor Tempo, you can just seize his nice story in order to shill your goods and huck all your fake wares. What?
They literally all come from his story. Asriel hamster balls, heads repair kits, honking mushrooms, like everything.
Yes.
Everything comes from his story. I'm selling his things that he's.
And you're getting the money for it?
No, I'm just putting the ads for it. People can write the ads. I mean, I guess maybe if the company writes the ads, they get the money. But like, I'm just helping out here.